Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this week's weekly briefing. Minister Loewen will speak first this morning and provide a weekly update on the wildfire activity in Alberta, followed by a situational update from the Wildfire Information Officer, Christy Tucker. Following both updates, media will have an opportunity to ask questions. I'm now welcoming Minister Loewen to the podium.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining me for this week's wildfire update. Similar to last week, I'm happy to kick things off with some good news. Thanks to cooler temperatures and more precipitation in many areas of the province, wildfire danger is now low to moderate throughout much of Alberta. These conditions, paired with diligent work on the part of our firefighters, has led to more than 300 fully extinguished wildfires this year. Alberta Wildfire Information Unit Manager Christy Tucker is here with me today to provide another operational update. But before we go to that, I'm going to go over some of the ways that Alberta's government is using technology and resources to enhance both wildfire response and prevention tactics. As I've mentioned, Alberta is incredibly lucky to have hundreds of brave men and women on the front lines of wildfire response. Government and contract wildland firefighters have been working tirelessly to keep our communities and forests safe. However, it's also important that we support our wildland firefighters with appropriate technology and resources that allow them to do their jobs more effectively. We've already made a number of enhancements this year that have positively impacted our suppression efforts, like our enhanced nighttime wildfire operations. Through Budget 2024, Alberta Wildfire now has access to 2 additional night vision equipped helicopters, increasing capacity for these specialized operations and allowing us to combat wildfires while their behavior is typically more subdued. Technology doesn't only play a role in our response when wildfires break out, it also impacts our preparedness and prevention efforts. Our fire weather monitoring system, for instance, allows Alberta wildfire staff to actively track temperature, relative humidity, precipitation, and wind direction and speed throughout the forest protection area. This helps us stay on top of wildfire danger and plan for elevated wildfire risk in certain areas. Budget 2024 also provides funding for upgrades to this fire weather monitoring system, ensuring optimal wildfire response now and for years to come. One of the other ways Alberta government is helping communities prepare for wildfires is through the Community Fire Guard program. Last week, my ministry announced an additional $14 million investment in that program, ensuring more communities throughout the province will be able to incorporate fire guard construction into their wildfire prevention and mitigation strategy. The final tactic I'd like to highlight today is the use of prescribed burns to actively manage wildfire danger. Prescribed burns reintroduce fire to the landscape in a careful manner that promotes forest health. These burns are only carried out under ideal conditions, and they're monitored by trained wildfire personnel throughout the entire process. It's important to remember that prescribed burns inside the forest protection area must be approved by the Ministry of Forestry and Parks. Now, before I hand things over to Christy Tucker for today's operational update, I want to once again thank our firefighters for their hard work and dedication. I'll now hand things over to Alberta Wildfire Information Unit Manager, Christy Tucker.
Thank you, Minister. There are currently 40 wildfires burning in the forest protection area of Alberta. Of those, 3 are being held and the rest are under control. There are no wildfires categorized as out of control and no wildfires of note. So far this year, we have had 280 wildfires start, and we have extinguished 261. Wildfires have burned 9,197 hectares this year, and by comparison, at this time last year, we had already seen more than 260,000 hectares burned. Yes, we have had some much-needed rain and even snow in some parts of the province, but this is the point of the season where conditions are about to change. With temperatures rising rapidly over the next couple of days, we're about to see a spike in wildfire danger in those areas of the province that haven't had as much rain. We have fire restrictions in the north of the province, and a fire ban is now in place in the Grand Prairie Forest area. We are expecting low humidity and high temperatures there, which will mean a wildfire can start and spread quickly. Albertans have a choice. They can help firefighters keep our forests and communities safe by respecting fire bans and restrictions in place. On average, 67% of wildfires in Alberta are caused by people. At this time of year, that number is even higher. So far, 199 wildfires were determined to be human-caused this year. Don't be that person. Be aware of conditions before you head outdoors. Check albertafirebans.ca to find out if any bans or restrictions are in place, and take that into account as the weather warms up in the province. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister and Christy, for the update. Please note that we have Stephen Lacroix, Senior ADM Managing Director for Public Safety and Emergency Services, also available with Minister and Christy to respond to any questions related to emergency response. We'll begin with a couple questions in the room, and then we'll move to the phone lines. So, can you say your name and state your...
Laura Crow, City News. My first question is for Christy. Despite the rainfall, you did express that there is still extreme danger up in the north, but overall, is it still shaping up to be a very big year for wildfires, or did the rain help mitigate that a little bit?
We've always said that spring rain is one of the largest factors in what kind of season we're going to see. At this point last year, we were far, far ahead of where we are now. We had seen already more area burned than we would normally see in an entire season by this point. So we are certainly in better shape than we were last year, thanks in part to those conditions that we have seen. The rain that's come in, the cooler temperatures have certainly added some time to the spring shoulder season and given us a bit of a reprieve as far as wildfire activity. But as I said, we're coming to the point where we could see a shift in those conditions, and we need to just be ready for what potentially could happen. We monitor conditions very carefully. We know what the weather is expected to come, certainly in the short term, and we are hopeful that more of that precipitation will come back, but we know in the short term this weekend we are expecting dry conditions, we're expecting warm conditions. We are looking at winds in a couple of areas that could provide additional danger, and so we are increasing our caution for this weekend, particularly in those areas that didn't get as much rain around the Peace in Grand Prairie region.
And my second question is for Minister Loewen. The union that represents wildland firefighters, they're raising some concerns about the lack of experienced firefighters, saying the province is having a hard time retaining them. Just hoping to get response to this.
Yeah, so the process for bringing on new firefighters has been the same for quite a while now. The process is towards the end of last season, we started recruiting the firefighters and committing to them that they would have a job going into this next season. If we look back at the recruitment over the past years, it's been anywhere from in the 50% to the 80%. So it varies year to year on that. After we've extended those options for the folks from last year, then we start advertising for new recruits to come in. Our first response to our first request for applications was something better than we'd ever seen before. So there is a lot of people in Alberta that do want to help us fight wildfire. After that process is done, then we go through the process of fitness training. And so that fitness training, I believe there was some done in December. There was the one in early January that I went to myself and was able to meet some of the potential recruits. With that fitness training, fitness testing, about 2/3 of the applicants made it through that fitness testing process. And then there's, after that process, then we go into the interviews with the potential recruits. And so that process starts, and then after we've went through the interview process, then we start training those wildfire firefighters. And so we are way ahead of schedule as compared to last year. Just as we committed, we were starting making sure we had boots on the ground ready to go by April 15th. In previous years, it's been May 1st. And so the process has been going along really good. We do have a good number of recruits coming on, and we make sure that any of the more seasoned people that we have in wildfire, those are the people that would take over more higher level jobs within wildfire fighting. And again, I just wanted to kind of maybe bring to light the process in our hiring process as we go forward. But again, we have commitments from people coming on to fight wildfire with us. And again, the recruitment process is something that's been going on for months, and as has the training.
Thank you.
Christy, did you want to add anything to that, or is that? Yeah.
I could just touch on training a little bit. We do have the Hinton Training Center, which is a facility that is the envy of many agencies in Canada. We have strict standards for training for firefighters, including hands-on practical exams and trials and tests. And we certainly don't let anyone through if they are not a fully experienced and qualified firefighter up to our standards.
Thank you. Are there any more questions in the room? Okay, we'll go to the phone line. Operator, can you please put through the first caller?
Thank you. Kyle Moore, Kicks FM.
Hi there. My question here is for Minister Loewen. Certainly we're coming up on that time of year, big long weekend in a couple of weeks where a lot more people could be spending more time sort of outdoors, and especially with some of the obviously the fire dangers being what they are at the moment. What are kind of some, I guess, awareness things the province is doing to try to get people more sort of fire smart, if you will?
Yeah, so one of the things we've done is we've had a pretty good campaign going so far this year, really getting out to the public the issues with human-caused fires. And, kind of the catchphrase on that one is don't be that person. So don't be that person to throw a cigarette butt out the window. Don't be that person to leave a campfire unattended. Make sure your campfires, when you leave them, you soak, stir, and soak again. And so there's all these different things that we're doing. We want to make sure that anybody that's been has a burning barrel or been burning brush throughout the season, make sure that they know and careful with that as we go forward. So that's been the biggest thing we've been doing on that, is just make sure that public education happens across Alberta, and make sure Albertans know where the potential is to start a fire that could go out of control, and make sure that we limit that to as much as we can.
And I'd like to take the opportunity to talk about our team that we have out there. The information officers in all of the forest area of Alberta have been very busy over the past few weeks, particularly Alberta Forest Week, in that education piece, in speaking in schools, in holding Fire Smart events, in speaking to community events, and the Grade 1 Seedling Program, which many people will remember from their own days in school, always comes with an education piece as far as the importance and value of Alberta's forests and protecting them. So information officers and our teams across the province have been out there on the ground over the last few weeks and months, building that education and awareness as well.
Thank you. Do you have a follow-up?
Up to that, up here in kind of the northwestern part of the province, hasn't got as much moisture recently as some other areas of the province. I know there's the fire ban in the Grand Prairie area, and also the restrictions around Peace River and High Level. So I guess what are kind of some is kind of the northwestern part of the province still kind of looked at sort of as a kind of an area of concern for potential fires for the next little bit?
Yes, it's always easy to see which areas we are watching most carefully if you go to the Alberta Fire Ban's website. We are flexible, but we do come in with restrictions and bans when we need to, in order to prevent as many human-caused fires in those areas where we see the danger is elevated. So at the moment, the fire ban that's in place in the Grand Prairie region should give you an indication. It's not a safe time to have outdoor wood fires. You need to be aware of what restrictions and what you can and cannot do under a fire ban, and to respect those, because you don't want to be the person who starts a wildfire in that area this weekend.
Are there any more questions in the room? Yes. Please say your name and your outlet, please.
Hi, Wes from Global. Just, Christy, could you just expand on Grand Prairie? How dry is it up there? Compared to here, how much moisture did they get, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. The indices around the Grand Prairie area, in the forest area and in that Peace area as well. They just didn't get the precipitation, and it's not just over the past week. It's the entire province, particularly in the north, has been in a drought situation for the past year. And so there are many months of build-up dry fuels in that area, and they didn't receive the amount of rain to cause the relief that we saw, fortunately, in many other areas of the province. And that's why we're paying very, very close attention to not just the amount of rain they received, but the dryness of the fuels that are already there on the ground. When people look around them, do they see a lot of green leaves? Do they see a lot of green grass? That's an indicator that the fire danger may be going down. If you see a lot of dead vegetation, that's certainly a fire risk. And that is particularly in that area when we're looking at the dryness of the fuels and the conditions that are coming in. We're expecting some wind in that area, and wind can always have an extreme effect on wildfire activity. It can inflame activity and mean the difference between, let's say, a campfire that may just go out in a little bit of rain and a campfire that can spread and turn into a wildfire.
Thank you. Follow up? Okay. Any more questions? Any more questions in the queue? Okay. Thank you very much for attending this week's wildfire update. Please feel free to email me any questions you may have.
Yes.
Thank you, Minister.
Thanks, everyone.